Okay, I think I'm good. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Do this
Sounds
thing.
good. Do our thing. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome
Hi there.
back to the
Welcome back.
Yeasayers. Episode
Yes,
6.
welcome. Episode
Welcome.
6. We had to figure out which episode this was. We had to go back and count each of the different titles. I really hope it is 6.
I really hope it's 6 too. I think one of the things you mentioned that we both mentioned in episode 1 was that the biggest test of all for this podcast would be if we stick to it. And we are here recording episode 6 at the end of the year. So I think that's my favorite part about episode 6.
Oh, I love that. We haven't even started it yet, and we're still. I mean, we have. We're 10 minutes and 10 seconds into it at this point, and
without ever talking about Trevor Noah, except for that brief mention. The star of episode 6, Trevor Noah's Born a Crime.
Oh, that's right. That's what we read.
Yeah.
Right. The life story of Daily Show host Trevor Noah through his upbringing in post-apartheid South Africa.
But Daily Show host no more because he just recently retired. So
wait, really?
You didn't know?
No, I had no idea. No. Remember, I'm in Europe right now. I don't get this.
He retired like the week that we were gonna originally, or the week before we were gonna record. So this is very timely.
Oh my
God! Very
God.
timely. Yeah. We should definitely get this
over?
episode out there. I don't know if they know yet. But he wanted to
bring Stuart back.
Yeah.
Bring Jon Stewart back.
He wanted to spend more time doing his stand-up that he loves and being able to travel and experience different cultures and people and places again.
Okay.
So he has a new stand-up show on Netflix, and I didn't finish watching it, but I watched like half of it. Yeah.
Was it any good?
So far it's interesting. I think I'm still warming up to it, but I only saw like 20 minutes or so.
Is his sense of humor just not on par with yours, or so is the crowd liking it at least?
Yeah, I think so. He does it. Where does he do it? Is it Canada? Maybe. I'll let you know.
I'll laugh anyway.
I'll circle back after I watch the whole thing.
Sure. Yeah. What is it? Netflix?
Yeah.
Oh, they're just giving everybody those specials now, aren't they?
Let's see what it's called. Yeah, because Trevor Noah is clearly a small name.
Anybody, just any old Joe Schmo.
Yeah. Speaking of, okay, so why did we select Trevor Noah for this episode? I think it was you who recommended it. I'm taking a look at what the Netflix one is called. I Wish You Would. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I Wish You Would what?
Well, you'll have to watch the special to find out. It says something about there's a German mention. I think you really need to watch it.
There's a German mention? What do you mean?
Like in the description. In this, you actually should watch this. In this third special show, comedian Trevor Noah talks learning German, speaking ill of the dead, judging people in horror movies, ... Then there's more. You and Homeboy have something in common. I'm sure you have a lot in common. Apparently, he's an ENFP, I think, according to some research I did.
So does that mean that,
that's why you're in love with him?
When did I say that? Not that it's not true, but when did I say that? I don't remember saying that at all.
You did it, but it came across through your messages.
Of my own. Yeah, I bet it did. Don't show any of those messages on screen at all.
I will
please.
Take a screenshot and then edit
them. Oh no. No. I think the reason we chose this one, honestly, I knew my roommate was reading this book, so maybe did I recommend it because of that? And he said it was really good. Was that why?
Maybe. I think you also like Trevor Noah, and my sister watches a lot of Trevor Noah. I'm not a huge talk show host person, but I have seen a bunch of his The Daily Show because my sister watches it, and so it's oftentimes on when we're hanging out together. And he's definitely an interesting character. For sure.
I think it also kind of bounces off of Craig Ferguson because we stayed in the talk show host mentality, so that might have been why.
And we're here with our talk show microphones.
Correct. Come on now. There's nothing better.
Yeah.
It makes you
Yeah.
feel
So,
special.
mhm,
Anyways.
special. Yeah. How would you describe the book? How would you introduce the book?
How would I introduce the book? Well, I mean, the general idea, like I said, it's like a life story of the Daily Show host Trevor Noah, or no longer Daily Show host Trevor
Mhm.
Noah, through his upbringing in post-apartheid South Africa, meaning that being that he is, by as the name of the book implies, born a crime as a mixed child. He kind of went through his whole life not really knowing where he sits in society, or at least knowing where he sit, but like being through his own, correct me if I'm wrong, or like you have a different opinion on it, but through his own ability to intermingle with different crowds, and also whichever schools he was a part of and the different groups of friends that he had over the time, his self-identity kind of fluctuated and he didn't really know where to sit with it, even though society itself kind of told him where to sit with it. So it was this whole journey of him discovering the world around him, and understanding that, and I kind of also giving a little bit of a reflection from a later in life with his own personal commentary through the book of these events, and like kind of putting his own ideas into the different situations he was in, and showcasing the different learning points of each of those moments in his life. Would you think that
Yeah.
that's a great description of the
Mm,
book, Priya?
that's an awesome description, and it actually segues into one of the points that I had about the book. But I will
Lovely.
say that this book definitely focuses on his childhood. So I think it's kind of
Yes.
like a memoir of him as a child. So it kind of goes up to, I don't remember exactly what age, but I feel like it kind of teeters off at around 18 or something like that.
It
He
was
goes
like
into
early
like,
20s, but yeah.
yeah, pretty detailed through his late teens, and then kind of
Mhm.
like it stops at, the event that happened with his mom
Hmm.
being shot
Yeah. Hmm.
at the end. So for
Spoilers.
me, yeah, well, I obviously I'm assuming if you're listening to this episode, we should we put spoiler alerts on our episodes?
Yeah, do it. I think that would be a great idea. Maybe in the comments at
Yeah,
least, or at least in the description. It's like spoiler alert.
yeah,
I mean, we
yeah.
are doing a review, so.
Yeah, it assumes
Anyways,
that.
I was just messing with you. Yeah, I was just messing with you.
Yeah,
But
I
continue.
see. Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Oh, sorry. My bad. Ho ho
Holidays. Ho ho
ho.
ho. So you were talking about how he kind of wasn't sure where he fit in and kind of like blended in with different things. I found that really interesting. And So I think for those who have not listened to the book, but if you're familiar with Trevor Noah, you probably know that he is half black, half white. His father was from Belgium, or no, which country?
No. Uh.
Switzerland. No?
Yes. I think so. Yes.
Yeah, he's like Swiss engineering, seemed like that,
Yeah, he
right?
was.
Yeah,
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 yeah. Cold
yeah,
people. Yeah,
yeah. And his mom was from
not
South
cold, but yeah.
Africa. His mom was from South Africa, is from South Africa. I think both of his parents are alive. And
Mhm.
yeah,
I think so.
and yeah, and I thought it was interesting, like how he was born. His mother is also a very interesting character, but she really wanted to have a child, even though she wasn't, she didn't care about being married or anything like that. She wasn't doing it because she loved somebody, but she just wanted to have a child. And so
Mhm.
she asked Trevor's dad, who lived in the same building as her. His mom's like a hardcore, like, she a very strong woman, um,
Absolutely.
very cool individual. And we talked about the effect of family and upbringing, I think, on people and their work ethic and their success later on in life. So maybe we should start there. Like, I was just blown away by his mother. What were
Oh,
you?
absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. Just like Homegirl got shot in the head and she stayed alive. She like fought this dude to the end, like their stepdad, like to the end. Like she would get hit and keep coming back at him. Like as horrible as that is, but like even just the mentality to have to stand up for yourself in every single situation and be able to um, find your way out of any situation that may be a little more dangerous. Like like literally in the first chapter of Run,
Yeah.
like just like
Yeah.
maneuvering your way out of getting kidnapped and taken by people, by
Yeah.
throwing your child out of a moving van if that's what it takes. Like that, like there's like this feeling of like security that she offers through her own,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like she may be a little hard on him quite a bit, or just a little odd in her ways, but it's always it's like structured to some extent. She's very I don't know, like strong.
It's
She's a
always
badass woman.
empowering. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's a
yeah,
badass woman. So
she
that
is.
story that you mentioned, which is like one of the first stories we hear in the book, and I listened to the
Mm-hmm.
audiobook this time. I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine reading it instead, actually, for this
No,
one. I
his
don't know
his
why.
performance of that is very, very good.
Trevor, Trevor, all his like voices and the little kid. Like,
I like how when he talks about like himself, like as a little child, and he gives like the little bit of the wah 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 kind of a voice to it.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? I thought it was
but
always good.
but
He always knew how
but
old he was. Yeah, yeah.
right. But I don't want to go.
Yeah. You're spot on. You sounded exactly like him, Priya. I
I
didn't.
come on. Okay, stop. Anyway, Evan can do it pretty well though. I was like,
Oh
"What?"
yeah.
Yeah, because he was, like, overhearing some of the actually, I listened to, half of the audiobook during our drive to Los Angeles a while
Mm.
ago, so he
Mm-hmm.
heard half of it and then was overhearing the rest.
Oh,
But
nice.
anyway, one of the first stories that, Trevor mentions in the book is when so his mom was definitely very religious, so Christian,
Mm-hmm.
believed in, Jesus, and he talked extensively about how she would go to church, like, I think it was at least every Sunday, 3 times a week?
No, 3 times on the Sunday, but yes,
Or
every
3
Sunday.
times. Oh, right, they went to 3 different churches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one
Mm-hmm.
after the other,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very poor,
Mm-hmm.
growing up in South Africa. And so they would oftentimes take the bus, or they had like a car that sometimes Trevor had to push from behind. Apparently, his mom had become an expert at how to use like every bit of gasoline to go every mile that it could.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but one of their trips to the church, I think there was something about like the weather was bad or something. I forgot what, or their car wasn't working. That's what it was. Their car wouldn't start, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Trevor's
Mm-hmm.
like, maybe we should take this as a sign to not that we're not to not go to church today. And his
Mm-hmm.
mother was like, oh no, we're going. Nothing will
Mm-hmm.
stop us from visiting church or seeing Jesus. Um, and so they took public transportation. And he talks a lot during the book about how what it was like to grow up not only with different races, kind of co-inhabiting the same country, but also various tribes. And every tribe had its own culture and its own language, and oftentimes the tribes would kind of be pitted against each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, this particular bus ride that they were taking during this trip, their driver happened to be of a kind of like a rival tribe, I would say, for lack of better words. And so
Mm-hmm.
they were picking on his mom, and his mom was there with him, and I think is like, was he there with another kid or just him? No, he only has one other
I
brother.
think it was,
No, two brothers, but those are later, I think.
yeah. To be honest with you, I don't remember, but
Yeah.
I'll either way.
So it was quite common, I think, violence. He grew up at a time and in an area where violence was quite common. And so he starts
Mm-hmm.
the book just like talking about that. It was an everyday thing. You would walk outside and, there was kind of warfare and violence happening on the streets. And so amidst all that, his mother was adamant about always going to church, going to 3 churches, taking public transportation if they had to. And it was kind of commonplace for violence to occur out of the blue, kind of, if somebody was, rubbed the wrong way about something. And it sounded like there was, during that bus ride, there was a little tiff, like the driver of the rival tribe was picking on his mom. And she
Hmm.
knew that he was like, shit was going to go down,
Yeah,
basically.
they were in danger. Yeah,
They
absolutely.
were in
I mean, she
danger.
also
Yeah.
was of a wasn't she of like one of the tribes or the groups that was a little more where the women were a little more
Yeah.
supposed to be like sassy or like powerful or more aggressive. So people kind of
Yeah.
didn't take too kindly to that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
that's what
think
I
the
thought.
bus
So
driver
she
found
already had a
out.
bad rap. Yeah, she already had a bad
Yeah.
rap to start with. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
I think she whispered to Trevor that they were going to jump when they
but he was
could from the
asleep.
car, but he was asleep. And so when the time came, she just kicked him out of the bus. And he was like, I
Imagine
don't know how old.
waking
He was
up.
like 3 or 4 years old at the time, I think.
No, I thought he was like
But,
7 or 8, but
oh, 7 or 8.
I
Okay.
think he was a little older, but
He
like
was
not old
young,
enough
though.
that he should have been kicked out of a
Yeah.
moving van. Yeah,
Although probably better that than being killed.
sure.
But yeah,
Yeah.
and then they like rolled and and were able to. They kind of like rolled away, and the bus driver kept going. I don't remember if they chased after them. They might have.
Well, that's why it's called
Um,
Run.
oh, right. And then his
Mm-hmm.
mom said after they came out of the bus, she's like, Trevor, run. And they just
Mm-hmm.
started running, and they were able to
Mm-hmm.
escape.
Because she
Yeah.
was the fastest woman he's ever known.
And he was the fastest person in his school.
Yeah, true. No, them together. Didn't they do like the tag team thing together? Wasn't that a thing? Am I
Oh, I
wrong?
don't remember. I don't remember that.
I
Yeah.
don't know, but yeah, you were right. Within the school, he was a fast little boy.
Yeah. So that's just an example of like how the book kicks off with this very, very like tangible example of what his mother was like in character.
Mm-hmm.
Like she did what she wanted to do. She always told Trevor to kind of like I think through her experience he kind of learned independent thinking, right? She was very independent in her lifestyle and her thinking until I feel like, well, I kind of thought it was interesting her whole relationship with Abel towards the
That's what I
end.
was about to bring up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because that's a little bit different. But he kind of speaks to that and how it's like hard for people to understand who are looking from outside in the
Mm-hmm.
intricacies of being born in an oppressive culture to some
Correct.
extent, where like women
Yeah.
are expected to live out certain traditional roles. And so
Mhm.
his mom was probably caught between that and what she, what she wanted to do a lot of the time. But
Well, didn't she also make the comment that like if she would leave him,
he would
he
kill
would kill
her.
them? Yeah,
Yeah. And he did
exactly.
try.
And like, yeah, yeah,
He
obviously he
was
did
right.
try towards
Yeah.
the end. Yeah, she was very right. And like even still, like it was kind of scary to see like the multiple times where the police became involved and they
Yeah.
kind of just were shrugged off because it was like, oh, you know how women are type of a thing. And then she was just like thrown to the side and wasn't even given a fair, I don't want to say fair trial, but like they didn't even like hear her out to any extent. It was very much just like whatever
Right.
the man says goes.
And this
That's a
is to
very
be
difficult
clear,
society.
Trevor's stepdad, so the man that she
Yeah.
married later, not
Yes.
Trevor's dad,
Not actual dad.
the
No.
Swiss guy.
Not the
Yeah.
Swiss cheese guy. Um
Yeah. But I wonder how much of that, like, I don't even wonder. I mean, it's obvious that a lot of his mother's character, his mother is a very strong influence in his life, and
mhm.
how much her character and her sort of like grit, I would say grit, and independent thinking um, impacted his life and the decisions that he would later make for himself. He doesn't talk about that in detail because
Mm-mm.
the book only goes up to when he's like, in his late youth.
Yeah.
But it had to have made a huge impact on him and his work ethic and how he just views the world. I think it does speak to that though, his view of the world. Like she
Oh, I
never
thought you, yeah.
yeah, he talks about this one time where or like I have this visual, I don't remember exactly when it's from, but them looking out like over the hills or the mountains or something. And she always encouraged him to look beyond where they are now and never put any limits mentally towards what can be done. There was
Mhm.
always like a can do attitude and will do
Yeah.
attitude, and we'll do what it takes to get it done, even if it's visiting. We will visit church,
Mhm.
even if it seems like all the odds are against us. I will survive, even though I got shot like in the face, in the leg, the bullet went through the brain, or it just missed the brain or
No,
something.
yeah, it
Like
was
just
right in
missed the
I think it was
brainstem.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's fucking wild. Yeah, that woman, man. Oh my
That
god.
survival mentality, like intense ability to survive through the struggles of life
Yeah, well,
and
also her
a lot of
support for him
struggle.
was also pretty big though as well because I mean she was very much a big adamant on him learning and especially learning
Yeah.
English and all the different languages and being somebody that kind of fit as like one of the chapters is chameleon. Her
Mhm.
ability to analyze any situation like again right off the bat in the first chapter or so with Run, like her ability to kind of analyze the situation and talk in
Yeah.
the different languages to the different people. Um,
Yeah.
that was also a mentality that he kind of grew up with and allowed him
Right.
to intermix himself with the different groups and kind of analyze different people and become accustomed to interacting with a number of different people and being confident in doing so. I think she also kind of instilled that into him to some extent because she was very like in any situation, even when it comes to like getting the dog back, she marched right over and just
Fufi.
confronted people. Yeah, got Fufi back. Um, that poor little dog who was probably very confused as to why she was held into a new house. But um,
Yeah.
no, it's like it's very. I don't know. I think she had a lot to do with it. But I also think just the general environment because he was very independent as well. Like I mean, he
Yeah.
loved his mom and he was very involved in his mom's
Yeah.
life and all that stuff. But over time, he was
That boy
very
was a troublemaker and a hustler.
yes,
I did not know that about him.
yes,
Those were
no.
my biggest takeaways reading or listening to the book. I was like,
Hmm.
He's a
Hmm.
hustler. Like
Yeah.
he's a business guy. I
Hmm.
had no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I didn't either. I had no idea either. That was very interesting to see. It's very funny to watch like that whole progression happen from just like selling little things. No, no, what was it? He got in line at school. Like
Yeah.
how did he do that? What, did he just get there earlier or something? Or how did he get in front of the
So it
line?
goes because he was the fastest kid in school. So that's where he
Oh,
talked
right.
about it,
Yes.
where they
Yeah,
would
yeah,
have in school, they would have, and this feeds into his like chameleon and kind of the need to fit in with different groups of people because he felt
yeah.
like
Hmm.
he never truly belonged. He was never like fully, with the black crowd. He was
Hmm.
never fully with the what's the word for the Dutch speaking Afrikaans? Oh, Afrikaans, right?
Afrikaans.
That's the
Hmm.
language that they. But yeah,
Hmm.
like the European, the white crowd, and then there was the mixed crowd. But I think mixed meant something, or no, colored. Colored meant something
Hmm.
different than
Hmm.
what we think. Um,
Hmm.
and so he never quite like fit in. Basically, there was nobody who was like half, you know, half and half like he was. And but anyway, so like they used to have whatever mass or something at school, right? Or assembly, maybe it wasn't religious, it was like assembly or something. I think it was
Hmm.
assembly.
Hmm.
And they had it right before lunch. And everybody ate lunch at the school there, and whoever made it first to like the line over there, like the cafeteria on the school campus or whatever it was called, they would get the best choice of food. And so like he was so fast that he would, as soon as the assembly was over, he would like book it, right? And like head over there and like run, and always like literally every single time he was the first person in line. And so then he started getting approached by people. He said his best customers were the white fat kids because they had money to
Hmm.
spend and they couldn't make
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
And they started to, give him their lunch money, be like, hey, can you get me my lunch since you're so fast, right? And so that turned into this, like, all of a sudden he had this long line of kids asking him to get their lunch for them since he was always gonna be the first person in line, and he started charging them, and that was, like, his first business that he mentions, at least in the book. It was very
Hmm.
interesting, and then he also talks about how he used that to his advantage in terms of, like, since he didn't fit in anywhere, he was like this, the kid though who got everybody's lunch, and so he could
Hmm.
visit the different crowds when delivering their lunch, like the popular kids, the jocks, the pretty girls, the nerds, like everybody, and he would kind of like deliver, like, while he was delivering the food, he would also tell jokes and, like, kinda, like, sit with with that particular crowd or group of kids and, like, hang out for a bit and then move on to the next one. And so definitely when listening to that, I felt like, wow, like, this was his start as a comedian. Like, he was
Hmm.
literally blending in like a chameleon and, you know, kind of like but making money at the same time. So I was just
Yes.
again, like to use the phrase blown away, I was blown away by his hustle mentality and his business sense from a young age.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, like, I mean, even you said that helped him as a comedian. I think it also just helped him when we talk about the Daily Show.
Yeah.
He was interviewing a lot of people a lot of times. So the ability to interviewing people isn't the easiest thing, and the ability to build rapport with somebody rather quickly and kind of understand a room and gather information about a person and know how to interact with anybody
Yeah.
is a very important skill when it comes to that. So him being able to just like interact with everybody from different like crews and groups and everything like that really taught him to be that malleable person depending on the situation and make people comfortable. And I think I don't know if that was a part of it at any point, but he does definitely make people feel. I feel like he makes people feel comfortable because of the understanding of like the different crowds and the different groups of people, which would be very beneficial to him when hosting a TV show or hosting like a talk show. You know, it allows people to kind of relate a little bit better, or at least a little part of him anybody can relate to.
Absolutely. And you mentioned this already, but like his mom knew several languages because I think it wasn't
Mm,
common for people to know languages from different tribes and also
yep.
like Afrikaans.
Hmm.
And he learned many of them. I think his mom also knew many of them. And
Hmm.
so he could understand and talk to different people almost like regardless of what tribe they were from, regardless if they were black or white.
Mm,
And so
yeah.
to kind of build on top of what you're saying, it's that like the ability to relate. And I mean, clearly he has a very strong ability to be able to pick up different cultures and languages and like you said understand the nuances of how to relate to different
Hmm.
kinds of people. And so like this kind of starting with like born a crime being born you know, to a South African mom and a Swiss dad, despite like given all of the struggle that came with that, it also gave him the ability, like not fitting in, seems to have given him the ability to be able to relate to anyone.
No, absolutely. Except for his date at prom. The only one he
Oh my
could.
god, can you can you talk about that? Oh my
Sure.
god.
I mean, all the languages that he knows how to speak, but he couldn't speak one. Not one. This one particular language with the prettiest girl in town that he got set up with his friend. I don't remember what the deal was or like why. But he promised
It was
him.
this
He was like,
hustler dude. It was the
it
hustler
was.
guy, and his, like,
Yeah, but
friend who was helping him sell CDs, and he's like, "Dude, if you" oh, 'cause this guy asked Trevor to wear Timberlands when he visited him at school on one of the days when they were having, like, a
because
talent
he wanted to
show,
be. Yeah,
and
because
he
of.
had told everybody who was it? I don't remember which, but, like, it was an American rapper. I forgot
Oh,
which one
was
he
it?
mentioned it was, and
Yeah.
he was like, "Dude, you gotta get up there and perform." And he's like,
Yeah. He's like, I'm not this guy. And
"Yeah,
they're like, they won't
but"
know that. Or no, he's this guy's like backup guy or whatever.
Yeah,
Or was it? I
and
don't
then
remember.
I don't remember who it was. It was somebody famous though, They
Yeah. It was a big
apparently
name.
people didn't know who it looked like.
Mm.
You know, people didn't really use YouTube back then. So
Mm.
Trevor just went up and performed. So I don't remember if it was in exchange for that or something similar that his hustler friend wanted and said like,
Mhm.
dude, if you do this for me, I'll set you up, at a day. And Trevor was not popular growing up, right? And
Mm-mm.
he didn't have like
No.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on his love life as well. But he's like, I'll
Oh.
set you up with the prettiest girl for prom. And Trevor knew that there would be a catch, but like he didn't know what it was. He was like, sure, sure, whatever, whatever. And
Mhm.
it turned out that like this
Well, he did
girl,
get the
like
prettiest girl.
he
He
did
did
get the
get the prettiest
prettiest
girl, so
girl,
he didn't
but
think
she
there was a catch
refused
for
to
a
come out of
while.
the yeah until the
Yeah.
until prom night, and a bunch of shit went wrong, and then she wouldn't come out of the car, and it turned out that's when he found out that she doesn't actually speak English or any language that he speaks.
Mhm. Yep, and then he kept going around the whole place being like, "Do you speak this? Do you speak this? Do you speak this?" And nobody spoke of it. So he just like this woman just sat in the car the whole time as people pointed at her. People were just like, "Oh, look at the girl
Coming
that
for
Trevor brought."
yeah.
Like this poor girl just
No,
getting
I think
pointed
they
at
were
her.
no, I think they came out and they were like, "Look at the girl that Trevor bought. She's so beautiful. This is the prettiest
Yeah,
girl we've ever seen," right?
yeah, but still, they're
Yeah.
like I feel like those guys were
You think
probably
so?
not a little harassment,
Okay.
probably.
Well, you're the
I don't know.
guy. You're the
I
guy.
don't know. I don't know. I'm the guy
We'll
here,
have to ask
but
Trevor himself.
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
ask
yeah, yeah.
Trevor when we have him on. But either way, yeah, his
That was
ability to
funny.
speak languages got him so far, except
That
to first base. Didn't get him to first base.
she kissed him though at the end,
Oh,
and he
true. All
was
right, never mind. He
confused.
didn't get to second base. There, we'll get that.
He was like, "I thought she like hated this," and all of a sudden she leans over and kisses him. He's like, "What the?" That was his
Yeah,
introduction to to to,
that's what he
to
said.
women.
Women. But then Fufu? Is it Fufu? Is that the
Fufi,
dog?
Fufi,
Fufi. Oh my god. Oh jeez. Is that
Fufu.
was the Fufi chapter after that or before that? Do you remember?
I think it was before, but I can pull it up real quick.
The only reason I say that is because like the Fufi one was when he kind of realized the idea of like you don't own the things you love. It's like
Fufi was
they just
part one, and the girls stuff was part two.
okay,
A young
okay. So
man's
I guess
long,
he never
awkward,
learned.
occasionally tragic, and frequently humiliating education in the affairs of the heart, parts one and two
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And three. Oh my god. Oh yeah, that's
Mm.
right. There was a lot of parts of that, weren't there? I was very confused a little. I was not very, but I was a little confused as how like his age changed, like and went back and forth quite a
It
few
was not
times.
chronological.
No, it wasn't, and that was like a bit odd, like to follow, because like at certain points he would say he would be traveling down by himself in his 20s to go see his dad for the first time in many years, and then
Yeah.
it jumps back to him being a kid at the with Abel, and like, and then jumps back again. Like,
Yeah.
I never really, it kind of threw me for a loop for a little bit, but I mean, maybe there
Yeah.
was a reason for that structure.
Actually, I don't
I'm not sure.
understand how there's three parts to the book, but I don't really know necessarily what are the three different parts, like what they represent. So part one, it sounds like it's mostly him as a child, but then he also talks about Robert. Part two, the mulberry tree, his love
Mm-hmm.
stuff, colorblind, outsider. I think he talks more about his school days and the starting of his business stuff in part two. And
Mm-hmm.
part three, Go Hitler, the Cheese Boys, his mother's life.
That Go Hitler story was so funny. Oh my god. I felt so awkward just listening to that. I was like, "Oh no." When he said Jewish school, I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh no."
But that wasn't even the thing that they got in trouble for.
What do you
So
mean?
one of Trevor's friends was, in case people haven't read this part
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
this, but one of Trevor's so Trevor, again, I had no idea he was a dancer too. Apparently, he was a
Mhm.
dancer. I had no idea.
No, his friend was.
No, he also danced and he
Did
DJ'd.
he?
I
I
think
know he
he
DJ'd.
also I think I feel like he also danced. Like he was
Okay.
able to join in, but he wasn't the star. His friend was like Hitler. Hitler was the dancer, like the dance
Yeah.
genius, right, of the
Now
crew.
for now for context though, I'd like to tell
Yes.
everybody the
Yeah.
reason why they named people like this there, because
Yeah.
they weren't really, I guess how he explained it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like they weren't really educated to the history of everything with that. They
Yeah.
just sometimes people just saw a powerful name from a
Yeah.
different culture and just took that and named their kid that. So that's why this kid was unfortunately named Hitler.
Well, he
Um,
said that Hitler is actually a very common name. Well, maybe not very common, but you see it quite a bit.
yeah,
In South
I believe
Africa,
that.
and for that reason, it's because it's like associated with, they don't know the context behind it and like what
Yeah.
Hitler, the historical figure, actually did. They just know that it's associated with like a strong warrior type of character, or like a soldier type of character. and
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
think in South Africa you get like your tribal name, and then you also get like a white name, for lack of better words. And
Yeah.
so they'll choose something that has characteristics that they want their child to have. So
Hmm.
those are the characteristics they associated with the name, not
Hmm.
knowing the full context behind it. I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting. I really like that he explained that, because
I did too.
that was a
Yeah.
moment of like how, it took me out of what I'm used to, and like understand how somebody else looks at, the
Hmm.
same name that I look at with, or
Yeah.
I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was very cool to see that. But then at the same point, when you yell, "Go Hitler," um, and everybody give it up for Hitler at a
Yeah.
Jewish
No,
school's
that's not
dance.
what they were upset at. They were upset
I
that
thought
they were
that was.
gyrating. No, they were doing
No, no, no.
gyrating
That's what he said. No,
movements.
no, 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 no. He said that's what Trevor
Uh,
thought he was upset that they were upset about. That's what Trevor thought. Trevor. That's why Trevor got all upset about it and like was yelling at her. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it was 100% because he
oh,
said "Go Hitler."
I was like I was like, "Well, how come they're not like," but I just assumed that in the,
No, 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 no,
what?
no. And that's what he kind of mentioned in it. He was like, at the time, I had no idea why this woman. That's why he yelled at her. That's why he was
Yeah.
like, "No, you're a
Yeah.
bitch" and all this stuff. Um,
Yeah.
because he was like, he didn't get it.
Yeah.
And later he
So
finds
his
out.
dance group
Oh.
with Hitler,
Hmm.
featuring Hitler, went to the talent show at a Jewish school. They were invited to by the lady who works
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
He was like helping to put together the talent show, and then they're having their like dance off or whatever it was, and they just started shouting, "Go Hitler! Go Hitler! Go Hitler!" And
And the
then
whole room was
yeah,
silent.
silent.
Oh God. Oh. So he definitely lived an interesting life, hustling, uh, avoiding
Absolutely.
psychopathic parents, or at least one psychopathic parent,
Let's
trying to
talk more
sneak
about
it
that
in.
hustle.
Oh
Um,
yeah, true, dude. Going from selling
yeah,
CDs to like doing an underground market of DJing
block
and
parties.
bootlegging and block
Yeah,
parties and stuff. Oh my God, homie
to
was a.
to selling stuff in the ghetto
What do you
at the
mean?
towards the end, like that they talk about. What's the name of the town
I don't
in South
remember.
Africa? Kind of like it was like the projects. There's like a specific city.
I don't remember, but I know what
It's
you're
not.
talking
Is it
about. I know.
Alexandria? No. What is
Uh, yeah, something like that.
right?
Alexandra?
Um,
No,
South. I think it might be
I think you might be right.
Alexandria.
Now, is this the part where
Oh,
he
no,
gets
no, no, I
arrested
don't
or
think so.
no?
Oh, maybe it is. I think it is.
What are you showing me right now? It's so blurry, dude. I can't see a goddamn
Oh.
thing. You just saw me. I just saw a bunch of pixels.
Really? But
Yeah.
it's basically like the slums, and
Hmm.
he goes into detail describing everything, which I think is cool. Obviously,
Hmm.
we won't do that here, but he goes into detail talking about like the different types of neighborhoods and towns in South Africa, and how all of like the black people got pushed to, or a lot of black people got pushed to sort of like towns created by the government, but then they just ended up working with like a limited amount of space, and they started building like house after house after house with a limited amount of space. And
Mm,
there's one in particular that was really, really sort of like, there were a couple of streets that were okay, but then the rest was like just deep slum.
mm-hmm,
um, and he had a his friend, and I think he had a friend, like a hustler friend, who maybe
mm-hmm,
lived in that area, but in one of the nicer streets. But they decided to go into business together. And this is after he graduated from high school, I think, or something like that. And he didn't go to college yet.
mm-hmm.
Kind of reminded me of Craig Ferguson a little bit. Interesting.
I
Because
mean,
he took it. um, oh, okay. And he and his friends started selling stuff on the streets, like in the slums, in the ghetto of the ghettoest of the ghettos in South Africa. And I forgot what they were selling, but they had like every day they were out on the street just like selling goods, right? So you went
mhm.
from doing the CD business where he
Well, first selling snacks
first selling snacks
to
in
CDs.
school, then
Then he got that computer and stuff, and he just
I was
bootlegged. Did
just thinking about that.
yeah.
But somebody he learned, he like started helping out. He had like a mentor in the CD pirating business, like an older kid in school who kind of taught him the ropes a little bit as well to
Mm-hmm.
help expand his business. And then there was this expense, like a CD writer. He didn't have like a fast CD writer, and he didn't have money to buy one. And so this like mentor kid, when he graduated, he gave Trevor his CD writer, and then Trevor was
Mm-hmm.
able to use that. Remember him talking,
Take
like
over the
pointing
business.
that out, like giving to, like taking what you have and what you kind of used, and then giving that to pay it forward to somebody else who could then use
Mm-hmm.
it. He was very
Mm-hmm.
appreciative of that moment.
Yeah,
I
of course.
remember.
Yeah, and expanded on that because like he made a lot of money enough to like build out a new computer and build all that stuff up, which also led to the DJing business and the block parties and everything like that. He really was a very good businessman in his ability to like build this little group of people that he just made money around, like in like not in like a shitty way, but in like a cooperative way. You know,
Yeah.
he it was very very cool. And sadly,
Yeah.
somebody shot his laptop. A police officer shot his laptop.
Oh, the
Remember
police
that?
officer. I forgot, at a block party that they were
Yeah, because
having.
they told him to shut off the music, and he's like, I have to power down my computer, and then like like, the police officer had zero patience, so he
Yeah.
decided to just shoot the laptop screen, which was the dumbest thing because that just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and the music
And the
kept
music kept
playing.
playing, and like he's just like and like then he lost everything. He lost everything. Oh, that poor man.
I'm
That's
kind of
right.
realizing as you mentioning this story that, like some of the other people that we've covered, he has an insane ability to work with what he has, the resources he has
Yeah,
access to. He grew up in South Africa. Like
he's very poor,
he had access to very, very little, like
next
almost
to
nothing
nothing.
compared to what, and he never seemed to complain. He took
No.
what he had, and then like he was able to take his resources, his skills that he already had, and turn them into profitable businesses as a child.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's just because of like the environment he grew up in, not knowing anything better, or well, maybe he did know better because he was relatively educated. Like his
Yeah.
mom made sure that he was a very educated kid, so maybe
Yeah.
that benefited him quite a bit when it came to expanding his own um,
Hmm.
experiences in life and
Yeah.
progression through life. You know,
Yeah.
so hmm.
Yeah. And he was quite the troublemaker. Like you asked about being arrested. I think that is when he was working in the slums. That is selling his like business in the ghetto. That is when he was that? I think that is when he was arrested. And his mom had warned him, should
Yeah,
stop
I mean
hanging out over there with those people.
yeah, I don't remember. He went for some reason. Wasn't he going to buy something? Wasn't that the whole thing? He wanted to go buy something that was on sale. Wasn't it like cell phones? So he took his Abel's Mazda, red Mazda, and drove it, and then somehow he got pulled
Oh.
over, and then all the registration and everything were not on his name, or there was no plate or anything like that, so nothing
And
could be
all
traced
he
back
had
to
to
him
do was tell them it's his stepdad's car, but he didn't because his mom
because
had told him, "Don't call me when you go to jail," and he didn't want
mm,
like, he didn't wanna deal with that.
he'd rather deal with the police. So he spent what, a week in jail? Wasn't that it? And he met a bunch of
Something like
people.
that.
And I like that. I also like the contrast because this is a part that I kind of wanted to talk about too. Is
Yeah.
this idea like when he gets into jail, or at least like right before he's about to go on trial, in front of the judge, there's this group of people. In a room where it's like literally separated into like the blacks, the
Mm,
colored, and the white, and like
mm.
he kind of stood there for a second and didn't know what area to go to, and it was kind of a flashback
Oh.
to him as a kid being like, I don't really fit with all of the, like I could, but then other people would look at me in this way, and then I could fit in this one, but the other people would look at me this way. So it was very interesting to see that how even like as he grew up, and like it never changed to the way that like he was still felt very isolated from a very specific group due to whether it be his skin color all the way up to the language he spoke, or the influence from his society and the group of people he hang out with and associated himself with
And
growing up.
there's an
So it was just very
example of like
interesting.
a split second analytical decision he had to make.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he points out that it was like, it's almost like a life and death decision that you're making in a split second, like what his mom did in that
Yeah.
first example in the run
Yeah.
chapter
True.
with dealing with the
Yeah.
bus, where
Huh.
if he picks the wrong group, he could get like beat up or, any number of things could happen to him, right?
Hmm.
And he had to kind of like make that judgment call just like and without it appearing like he was doing that's such an like to put yourself in that shoe and to kind of listen and talking about that it's very interesting because you like not knowing where you fit, like and then kind of having to subtly in your mind without showing it decide which group you want to out of the prisoners you want to sort of like wait with.
Hmm.
And I think he chose the white group
Yeah. He chose the
because
old
it
white
felt like
dudes.
the safest choice, like where he would
Yeah.
probably not get beat up.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 Well, I wish it worked out. They told, like, I mean, he was just very. They kind of gave him the. I don't know. They kind of also told him, didn't they? They're like, don't come back here again, or something, or like to make sure you don't get back in
Yeah,
here because you won't leave or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah, it was very,
yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, and he almost had another incident with the cops where but this was when he was younger. When he and his friend, he had a friend who he didn't have like seemed to have a lot of real kind of friends who he could play with growing up because his mother chose, well, first of all, he didn't fit in into any particular
Mm,
group, but I think his mom also lived in areas where there weren't a lot of Black or colored people,
mm,
I think a lot of the time, and so I remember he talked about this one time they moved around a lot, so it was kind of
mm,
difficult to keep track of, I think, all the neighborhoods that he lived in, but, um, the certain neighborhood they lived in and, like, the only friend he had was a servant family that lived nearby and their son,
true.
and they used to play together, or they used to, like, go cause trouble together, so they would walk I think, to the nearest mall or the shopping center. And every day after the not every day, but after the mall closed, they would steal chocolate. So there was this like store with a bunch of stuff, and it was
Mm,
like closed with kind of bars, but you could see everything still. And
and
so they
stick your
would
arm
reach
through.
inside, yeah, stick your arm through, and like there were always these chocolates kind of by the gate, um,
Hmm.
by the bars, and so they would like reach their hand inside and steal chocolates. It seemed like regularly.
Mm,
And at one point, they actually almost got caught where one of the guards working there saw them and then started running after them. And then he and his friend, I think his friend was black, right? And
mm,
they started booking it. They started running, and more cops started chasing. More of the security guards started chasing them. And Trevor talks about this multiple times, where he knew the streets in his neighborhood. He knew, like, every nook, every cranny, every sort of, like, place he could escape through, every turn, every corner. And so he was trying to, like, help he was telling his friend at one point, I think they got to a dead end. He's like, "No, like, let's go across this field." And his friend was like, "You can't get through the field." He's like, "No, I know how. There's a little area where you can kind of, like, crawl
Mm,
through." His friend didn't follow him. He got arrested. He got caught and arrested.
mm.
Trevor
His
kept
friend.
running.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trevor kept running. Trevor was able to make it home. He did not get arrested. And then he was kind of like playing dumb afterwards, right? Like I
Mm.
think
Yeah. Who?
his friend's family called and they were like, "Oh, did you hear?" To his mom, to Trevor's mom, "Did you hear? Like the friend got arrested." And then
And he
Trevor
goes,
was like, "Oh,
"Oh, he got arrested? No way!"
yeah." Um, he was with somebody. "Trevor, where were you during that, last night or whatever?" He's like, "Oh, I was just here at home." And then he talks about how, like, they went to school together. And so a couple days later, he got called to the principal's office. And he was like, "Oh, crap." Like, he thought he
Being
got
interrogated
caught
again. Yeah.
and he was being interrogated. And then he denied everything. And then I think he got called again. And this time they had video surveillance footage
Mhm.
of Trevor and his friend reaching
Mhm.
through the bars, getting out the chocolates. And he was like,
Mhm.
"Oh shit, I'm done for. Like, I'm gonna get expelled. Like, this is it, right?" Because his friend got
And they got.
expelled.
Mhm.
And they were like, "Trevor,
Do you
do
know who
you
this
know
is?
this?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Huh?" And because of the way that the video footage took in color, like it showed black as really dark and other skin tone, I guess Trevor's skin tone as white. So on the
Mhm. So
camera,
what
even though
white kid was he hanging out with? Yep.
the kid had all it looked like Trevor. It had all of
Mm.
Trevor's facial features, but
But
he
he looked
looked
white.
white.
Mhm.
And
So then
so
they were like,
they who's this white kid? "Trevor, do you know this white kid that your friend's been hanging out with?" And he was like,
nope.
"What?" I read that, I listened to that, I was like, "What?"
Yeah, dude, off the hook like crazy. Perks of being, see, like there you go. Being a crime has perks sometimes, especially when it comes to surveillance cameras at a mall.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
that's
he
wild.
almost went to jail again, but he was a hustler, he was a troublemaker, but
He
also
was.
very adept chameleon.
He was. He was. Yes. Yes, he was. Priya, would you like to? I think this is a good time to wrap it up and give our recommendations on this book after this long and winded analysis.
I think it is.
Not winded. That was
So
rude. I didn't mean to say winded, but
I know you're being rude to us.
I know. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it like that.
I was like, "Okay,
Deep. I know. I realized after I said that, I was like, that was a little bit
we'll
much.
cut that out."
Okay. No,
I
no, no.
see how
Leave it
you
in. I want to
really
be.
I see how
No,
you
stop
really
it.
feel.
No, stop. Stop. Oh, God damn it. How did you feel about this book? Would you recommend it to somebody else there, Priya?
I would definitely recommend it. However, I would say that Under the Umbrella, it's kind of similar to Jeanette McCurdy in terms of like, it doesn't really show his story about how he became successful and show us that path.
Sure.
So I was kind of expecting it to be, I really enjoyed the book and I would recommend it to people, but I would not recommend it as a Yeasayers book necessarily. And that, like,
True.
how we kind of uncover, trace back how somebody became successful and what made them successful. I think we were
Hmm.
able to uncover quite a few insights along those
Hmm.
lines. I mean, I think the book was a really enjoyable listen for sure. But
Hmm.
it didn't have that main part, which is like for the Yeasayers umbrella, I would say.
Yeah. I can completely agree. After what you just said, I was wondering where I stood with this book for a while. Like, I mean, I enjoyed it, like you said. I very much
Yeah.
enjoyed this book. It was a fun read. I like Trevor Noah, and I liked learning about what it's like to grow up in South Africa, and especially in the time that he did as the ethnicity that he is. Um, but at the same time, it was one of those things where I was just like, I was hoping that it would get to a point where he would give a little of a insight on later in his life as it
Yeah.
became more established, and because his childhood is very interesting and definitely story worthy. But like you said, as a Yeasayer book or a Yeasayer like criteria, it just kind of it didn't hit enough of like we had to
Yeah.
dig a little bit more for that insight and and suspect like or just like assume
Yeah.
certain things rather than have him kind of come forth and tell you a little bit about the progression of his life. So
Yeah, I
completely
would
agree.
love to see another, like a follow-up, a part two, where he talks
Of
about
course.
where this book leaves off, all the way through
Mm.
to the Daily Show. That would be amazing. I feel like that
That
would
would
be
be
the
neat.
Yeasayer version of this book.
True. Yeah. And seeing how he made his step over into the States and everything like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That'd be very interesting to know.
yeah,
Trevor, if you're listening, by any means, write that book
yes,
now,
yes.
please.
Please, we need it.
We need it.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Criteria for the Yeasayer stamp of approval. Did we kind of just say that it didn't get the stamp of approval? Can we still give it a
I
stamp of approval without giving it the stamp of approval?
I think we can say that the book was enjoyable, but it doesn't get an official Yeasayer
Yeah,
stamp. But I feel like a
I'll
part
concur.
two might, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
If
we
he
can
comes
still
out
go
with his
through the
next book.
criteria. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Let's do that. A
Okay.
depiction of overcoming struggle.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. His whole life was a struggle. So he overcame that. A new way of looking at or approaching life. I would say yes. At least there's certain stories that he told
Mm,
that I would like. His book, honestly, the saddest part, like the Fufi, the dog, where
yeah.
it was like the you don't own, like, not that I own love, but there was just like that. It was like one of these like nobody ever hit me with that
Yeah.
mentality of like you don't own the things that you love. It's just like
Mm,
you have to let them be with you, and you love them because they're with you. And
mm.
like that was a really cool message that it put forth, and I like to think about that now
Yeah.
from time to time, incorporate
I
that a
think it
little more.
definitely, yeah, it definitely broadened my perspective. I mean, there's several examples in the book, like things I just didn't know about or was aware of. And then I would say, even from applying like a Yeasayer lens to it, his whole approach to business, although I'm very interested in like how he got that mentality to begin with. It just
Yeah,
seems like it's
yeah,
just a part of him, right?
yeah.
It should be born a crime and a businessman. Like that's the,
Yeah,
that's
for
what
real,
I
for real. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Give me the business
learned.
101.
Yeah. So yeah, it did. What was the official criteria again for that one? What does
A
it
new way of
actually say?
looking at slash approaching life.
I would say it gives me new perspectives personally. I don't know about the
Sure,
approach part for me.
sure. Okay. Causes self reflection. Did this book cause any self reflection? I'm gonna say no. I mean, not hugely, I guess. Like, I mean, maybe during reading a little bit, but like nothing that I can look back on and be like, yeah, this may change my mind of things. If anything, it just informed me of what it was like to live in that
Yeah.
area. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have to agree. Like I think it caused a little bit of self-reflection in terms of um understanding how somebody like Trevor Noah operates and just like
Mm-hmm.
seeing how he operated through his childhood and then kind of applying that back to myself, like
Mm-hmm.
again, it was huge that he was kind of a performer from the beginning and he kind of took what he had access to and got to the next step with what he had. He was a hustler, he was a dance like he danced, he was a DJ. I had no idea all this about his background. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would say that the I don't know why, like, the book didn't make me spend a lot of time thinking about that in terms of applying those insights to my life, probably because it was just in and of itself so engaging to just continue listening to the experience and adventures that he went through and his
Mm-hmm.
life, and it was almost like I was, like, watching a movie, like, watching the Trevor Noah childhood movie unfold,
Mm-hmm.
that's what it felt like. So, it did it could cause some self-reflection, and I think there are some points there, but it didn't get me to spend a lot of time thinking in that way.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And was it engaging?
Yes.
Did it leave a lasting impression?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I could say so. That's a very good one. He kept me engaged the entire time.
Yeah.
What did you walk away feeling empowered?
I would say a soft yes to that one, actually.
I'll give it a soft yes as well. That's a good answer. Why?
Oh gosh, just like hearing about, I think hearing about people who are triumphant over like struggles that
Mm-hmm.
I've never known that level of struggle. Of course, we all go through our own stuff, but this is on
The
another
next level.
level,
Yeah.
the next level. And just seeing examples of multiple people, like not only him, but his mom, a couple of his friends, right? Like people he mentions throughout the book, but mostly him and his mom, witnessing their ability to not get pulled down from the struggle, but rather come out of it in a way that makes themselves and the world better.
Mm-hmm.
That's empowering to me because it's like, why can't, I have, and he talks about this in like that part where he's grateful that he got the computer from the guy that who kind of like gave him, or the CD writing
Mm-hmm.
hardware.
Mm-hmm.
We grow up around so much with so many resources. And like, if we've seen how much they could do with the few resources they had, like, we have no excuse, I feel like.
It's
Like,
true.
there's so
Yeah,
much I
yeah,
could do with what I have, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that it's kind of like a slap in the face, but at the same time, like it's a good slap. Like I need that slap in the face, right? It's an empowering slap in the face. Like look at everything you have. Like, why waste time complaining or thinking you don't have enough, or like, no. Yeah.
Yeah. I can concur with that. I'll concur with
Yeah.
that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Empowered. Yeah, I always like you said, the hero story is nice. Like, not hero story, but like the overcoming, um, I guess the shitty hand is
Yeah.
is a cool thing. It's always really cool to see that
Not only
somebody
not
like, cause
only
it's,
overcoming, but transforming it into tremendous opportunity, which is
absolutely,
why we
yeah,
need the
yeah, yeah.
part 2.
Yes, we do. Trevor, please, Trevor,
Please.
please, 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 Trevor, please. I'm gonna
I'm
get
gonna cut it
closer and
off
closer.
there.
Please. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Yeasayers podcast, where we say yes to success. We hope you enjoyed this episode of this wonderful analysis of Trevor Noah's Born a Crime.
And a
It was not a
businessman.
long-winded, but Born a Businessman. I don't know what else, Priya. Everybody like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. If you enjoyed, join our newsletter that doesn't exist yet. Send us fan mail. You can find the PO box in the description below. Yeah, go read books, everybody. Come back next week.
Go read books. Yeah.
Go read
And
books. Learn
let's all
things.
take what we have access to and make something useful out of it. Right?
Yeah. Birth another crime.
Mm-hmm. All right. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Goodbye.